Interview with the Vampire, page 15. Was it difficult? Asked the boy. I should have never started with a human, but this was something that I had to learn by myself. After the police had gone, Lestat and I went into the swamps. It was dark, so I focused on my new ability to see in total darkness. And then we finally found our victims. There was a small camp of runaway slaves. Lestat had visited them before and killed some of them, taking them in their sleep. They didn't know anything about Lestat. We had to watch for an hour before one of the men finally walked a little into the trees closer to where we were standing. Lestat told me to take him. The vampire smiled at the boy's wide eyes. I think I was as horrified as you are now, but I didn't know then that I could kill animals instead of humans. I said that I could not take him, and the slave heard me. He stopped and looked into the dark. Then quickly he took out a long knife and stepped forward. I knew that he could not see us in the dark. Lestat stepped behind him, grabbed him, and beat his neck. The slave cried out and tried to free himself, but it was too late. Lestat finished his business fast because the other slaves came running. You make me sick, he said when he got back to me. The slaves discovered the wounded man, took him back, and then started looking for the attacker. We have to get another one before they return to the camp, Lestat said, and quickly we went after another man who was separated from the others. Lestat didn't say or do anything to help me with this new experience. He just did not. What do you mean? The boy asked. Well, killing is not easy, said the vampire. You don't simply feed yourself on blood. You feel the life of another person, how the life is leaving him through the blood. I don't think that Lestat understood that. He caught that slave and held him, showing me his neck. Do it, he said, and I did it. And once I tasted the blood, everything else disappeared. I drank and drank, but soon Lestat stopped me. He's already dead, you idiot, he shouted and slapped my face. You don't drink after they're dead, understand that? You'll die if you do that. I was simply charmed. You were charmed? Did it feel like love? Asked the boy. The vampire smiled. That's right. It's like love. You must understand that I'm telling you my story so you can know that there is a big difference between vampires. I am not like Lestat at all. But then one day, at the house of Point du Lac, when we sat at the table, Lestat caught a huge rat and filled a glass with its blood. I was shocked, and he said, Haven't you seen a rat? You have to feed on rats sometimes. Traveling by ship, for example. I stared at him. Do you mean that we can feed on animals? I asked. Yes, of course, rats, chickens, cattle. Don't be such an idiot, he said, and drank the rat's blood. I can throw you and your father out of my house if I like, I said. I think I got really angry then. You won't do that. You don't know everything yet, or do you? Lestat asked. Lestat asked me sarcastically and laughed. You don't know, for example, how you can die? I protested. But there must be someone else in the world to teach me these things. Certainly you are not the only vampire. Lestat stopped laughing and looked at me. And do you think that you can find other vampires by yourself? They might see you, my friend, but you won't see them. No, I don't think that you have any choice now. I'm your teacher, and you need me, and there is nothing you can do about it. And we both should sleep in the same room for safety. Of course, I didn't want to stay in the same room with him. He became furious. Don't do anything stupid, Louis. I warn you. There is nothing you can do to protect yourself when the sun rises. Then he said other things to frighten me, but I didn't listen to him. He looked weak and stupid to me. I will sleep alone, I said, and took my coffin to my brother's oratory. I shut the blinds on the windows and locked the door. Then I climbed into the coffin, and that's how I became a vampire. And there you were, said the boy after a pause, with another vampire whom you hated. But I had to stay with him, answered the vampire. As I've told you, there was so much that I didn't know, and I had to know, and only he could tell me. But in fact, the things that he taught me were practical. For example, how we could travel by ship together with our coffins, pretending that they contained the dead bodies of our relatives. How we could feed on rats. How there were shops, restaurants, and banks that he knew and that could serve and do business with us at night. In all these things, Lestat was a good teacher. I didn't know what kind of man he'd been in life. I didn't care, but probably we were of the same class. To our visitors, he was gentle and polite. That made our lives much easier. But he didn't harm these men, did he? Asked the boy. Oh yeah, often he did. But I'll tell you a little secret. I knew that Lestat hunted for mortals every night. He was a killer then. But to my family, my guests, and my slaves, he was not. He also took care of his father, but sometimes he treated the blind old man badly. Don't I take enough care of you? Lestat shouted at him. Stop asking me about going to church or to your old friends. Your old friends are all dead. Why don't you die and leave me in peace? The old man cried softly. He would have been quite happy on his little farm forever. I often wanted to ask him where that place was, because probably that's where Lestat knew another vampire. But I didn't dare. And so we lived together. Lestat often laughed at me and my mortal feelings, especially when I asked him about God or the devil. But now, in this strange vampire nature, I felt deep sadness. I often looked around me at all the mortals that I knew and saw life as something precious. I helped my family and spent much time with my sister. All this became possible because of my loneliness, with which I lived in the world of mortal men. And what about the money? Asked the boy. Oh, that. Lestat and I had no material troubles. He knew how to steal from his victims. He also used his vampire skills at the gambling tables in the richest salons of the city. So he could always get money, and I could invest it. But first, let me describe New Orleans as it was then, so you can understand how simple our lives were. There was no city in America like New Orleans. It was filled with immigrants of all kinds. Then there were not only the black slaves and the Indians, but also the people of the port, the sailors of ships, who came to spend their money in the city. This was New Orleans, a magical and romantic place for a vampire to live in, a city in which a vampire will never be noticed. The vampire looked sad. The boy sighed quietly. What was it? The vampire asked after a while. Oh yes, the money. Lestat and I had to make money, but I'll come to that in a moment. Let me tell you first how we fed. I killed animals, and Lestat killed humans all the time. Sometimes 2 or 3 a night, sometimes more. He drank from one and then went to another. A young girl was his favorite food, but his favorite trophy was a young man like you especially. Me? The boy whispered. Yes, the vampire continued, as if he hadn't seen the boy's fear. Both of us were hunting every night, Lestat for slaves and I for animals. Were you killing only animals? Yes, but I'll come to that later. And he was just a killer then, the boy said. No, soon I saw what it meant to him to be a vampire. It meant revenge. Revenge against life. Every time he took a life, it was revenge. Nothing mattered to him. He hated everyone. He envied the mortals. Did he continue living at Point du Lac? Yes. I wasn't sure if he told me all that I needed to know, and great pretense was needed. For my sister's wedding, I pretended that I had malaria, and something like that happened to me on the day of my mother's funeral, too. Every night, Lestat and I sat down to dinner with the old man and made nice noises with our knives and forks. I faked headaches to meet with my sister in a dark bedroom, to give her and her husband a lot of money to invest for us all. Luckily, her husband was an idiot, and these things went well. But soon we began to have our problems with the slaves. They were suspicious. As I said, Lestat killed anyone he liked. So there was always some talk of mysterious deaths, which I heard one evening when I was playing a shadow at the slave cabins. Now, let me explain first something about these slaves. Our slaves were Africans. They were very black and very foreign. They made jewelry of animal bones. They spoke their African languages and sang their exotic and strange African songs. They were superstitious and had their own secrets and traditions. They had no fear. One summer evening, I heard through the open doors of a cabin a conversation which told me that Lestat and I were in real danger. The slaves knew now that we were not ordinary mortals. One of the maids told of how through a keyhole they had seen us at the table with empty plates and empty glasses, laughing, our faces white and ghostly. They had also seen Lestat's coffin. There is no bed in there, they whispered. He sleeps in the coffin. They knew what we were. And as for me, they had seen me come from the oratory every evening. Of course, I had pretended to visit it in memory of Paul, but they didn't believe my lies. And now they made a connection between us and the deaths of slaves in the fields and swamps, the dead cattle and horses, and all the other strange events. But they were not going to run away. No, they wanted to destroy us. I ran back to the plantation house to tell Lestat that our game was over. I'll kill them all. Some will run away, and that will be fine, Lestat answered calmly. He wasn't running away from the stupid slaves. His father was very ill and could die any minute. Are you mad? I cried then. I want you to leave. Now, go look at your father and tell me how long he will live, because that's how long you can stay, and only if the slaves don't kill us sooner. Lestat was furious. He told me then to go and look at his father myself, and I did. The old man was really dying. I had always liked the old man. He was kind and simple. I knew that the slaves in the house were watching us and listening. I was hoping that the old man would die right then, I called for Daniel, the slave to whom I had given the overseer's job. But when Daniel came, the moment I saw him, I knew that everything at Point du Lac was lost. He looked at me as if I was a monster, so I had to kill him. The vampire stopped. He was looking at the boy. You what? Asked the boy. Yes, I had to kill him. I had no time. He started to run. He would have told everyone. I killed him with a knife, but I didn't taste his blood. I could not. Then Lestat came out of the room. Kill my father. We have to get out of here. There's no time, he said. Are you mad? He's your father, I answered. I know that he's my father, said Lestat. That's why you have to kill him. I can't kill him. If I could, I would have done it a long time ago. And look what you've done, killing this slave. His friends will be here in minutes. This was true. Lestat was right. I could hear the slaves gathering outside. I left Lestat, went into his father's bedroom, and shut the door. The old man never knew what happened. He never woke up. I knew then that I had had enough of Point du Lac and Lestat and all. The slaves were coming now. I decided to burn the house, and that's what I did. Lestat thought that I was mad. The only thing that was saved from the flames was his coffin. Could the fire hurt you? Asked the boy. Of course, said the vampire. Did you go back to the oratory? Was it safe? No, not at all. The slaves were running around. But what about Lestat? The vampire sighed. Lestat wanted to go to New Orleans, but we needed a carriage and horses to take our coffins there. At first we hid at another plantation house nearby. I knew the owner, a very nice lady named Babette, whom I liked, but whom I never told my real story. Oh, I see that you want to ask me a question. The vampire stopped. Oh, no, said the boy shyly. Ask me, the vampire said to the boy. Well, did you still have feelings, I mean, for ladies? The boy asked. Do you think that I cannot feel? Asked the vampire. Or you mean love? It is a good question. I feel love, and I felt some love for Babette, but it was not the greatest love I have ever felt. Anyway, she gave me and Lestat a dark room for the day. Lestat wanted to leave as soon as possible and hated me for being friends with mortals. I don't need you, Louis, he shouted. But to get out of here, we need each other. You don't know how to use your powers. It's like you don't know what you are. You talk to this woman, but if she comes back with the others? But what if she comes back with the others? Then what? Then be ready to kill. The vampire stopped. He was lost in his thoughts, his memory. Then he turned towards the boy and studied him. The boy looked into the vampire's eyes. Is this what you wanted? The vampire whispered. Is this what you wanted to hear? He moved the chair back, got up, and walked to the window. The boy sat quietly, and his eyes were wide. You don't answer me because I'm not giving you what you want, am I? You wanted an interview, something to play on the radio. That doesn't matter. I'll throw the tapes away if you want. The boy stood up. I can't say that I understand all that you're telling me. He took a step towards the vampire. The vampire turned his head slowly, looked at the boy and smiled. His face was calm, and the boy suddenly felt uncomfortable. Will you please go on? The boy asked. Why? The vampire asked. The boy didn't know what to say. Because I want to hear it, because I want to know what happened. All right, said the vampire with a smile. He went back to the chair and sat down. So let me go on then. You must understand that what I felt for Babette was a desire for a friend because I was so lonely. It was stronger than any other desire, except for the desire for blood. In the evening, Babette came alone with a lamp. But when she looked at me, I knew that she must have heard the terrible stories of last night. Now to Babette I was a monster. Please help us, I said to her. We need only a carriage and horses. She paused, making the sign of the cross, as if I was the devil. I don't know if I come from the devil or not. I don't know what I am, I shouted to her. I will live to the end of the world, and I do not even know what I am. Suddenly Lestat was behind her. He grabbed her wrist, and she screamed and dropped the lamp. Lestat pulled her towards the open door. Get us the carriage, he said to her. Get it now, and the horses. I ran after him, grabbed him by the neck and pulled him backwards. He let Babette go. Then he turned and kicked me, but I pulled him down. Babette was horrified. Remember, I shouted to her, I could kill you, or let him kill you. I did not. You thought that I was the devil. You were wrong. Then Lestat and I ran to the stables to get the horses and the carriage, and in an hour and a half we were in New Orleans.